It was a good experience studying in London with £70 per month. It was a tough one. My exposure to OTC markets, we set up like 3 hedge funds. They all blew up.
The hardest thing is to find the right question. And it's not the answer that's the hardest, but the right question.
We realized that this is one of the most regulated field in the world, payments.
Any payment company that will not integrate this kind of stablecoin technology will have pretty similar fate as compared to Volkswagen with Tesla.
Applying only 1% transactions through a stablecoin. 213 trillion multiplied by 1%, multiplied by 1.99% we're going to save from card payments. We call every marketplace that's out there to come to xMoney.
I'm Beniamin Mincu, and I'm here with Lucian Mincu. And today we have a really great guest with us. As you know, we're the co-founders of Multiverse X, and now you'll hear much more about xMoney. In this podcast, we're building the most advanced tech that scales trust, truth, and human collaboration. And this is a front seat view of the journey we're taking, with the challenges we have, the experiences we have, the lessons, the drawbacks, and ideally also the most important things we take away to make a big win. So today we have a really special guest. And this is, we normally refer to Greg as Greg, but today I'll also introduce the real and full name. So he is Dr. Gregorios Siourounis. Hope I did not butcher the name. If so, please correct me, Greg. But how are you guys? Welcome, Lucian and Greg. And how are you?
Thank you for having us. Great.
Lucian?
Yes. Very great. Welcome back, everybody, to the Full Shark Pod, and the pleasure having you, Greg, with us. Very curious and promising discussion today. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
100%.
Looking forward.
100%. So to set a bit of context for the conversation today, I think the listeners have by now heard some things about you, Greg, have heard some updates about xMoney, but I think they've heard too little. And there's much more that they can discover and that they'll be excited about once they discover when it comes to xMoney. So stepping a bit into the context, before getting into the vision, before getting into the story, I think it would be really great to do a bit double click on your history, your background, because you touch on a few very strategic, very important paths that are not only very rare, but you rarely see someone that has pursued and succeeded at each of them, and then is now ready to also make it big at this intersection where we are at this point. So very curious, maybe Greg, what would be the most interesting things that you'd like to share, perhaps a bit about payments, the pursuit you have in economics and the teaching position and so on. And then also Web3, because you're touching on quite a lot.
Yes, well, that is true. But although I don't know how much, how well I touch them all, but I can definitely tell you the story about it. So definitely, one should start from where we get our education. So having being educated in the UK from London Business School, I got my PhD there in economics, of course, and statistics, econometrics was my major. My PhD was, it was a good experience, to be honest. Studying in London with £70 per month, but it's okay. It was a tough one. So
hardcore lessons.
Yes, life lessons that we all try to learn from. So my PhD was split actually in 2 majors. One was capital flows and exchange rates. The other one was institutions. One of them led me in the markets and helped me become what we all call an entrepreneur. The other one, followed a few years in academia, and actually in this year's, Nobel Prize, one of the major, references from the academic committee was in my work back in 2008 when we published with Ilias Papaioannou, that he's now a professor at London Business School. Back then we were like PhD students, romantic ones. We published something on institutions and growth. Luckily enough, and I'm saying luckily because this is how life evolved. My first job after the PhD was not in academia; it was in the markets. So I stepped in the markets like somebody being very romantic and on the academic side. And then I realized that markets function very fast. You have to be very fast, and you have to have an opinion. It was not like academia that you just have to be right. It doesn't have to be that you have an opinion. So very different, mindset. Having said that, my first job was at Barclays Capital. I spent there a couple of years in the foreign exchange markets as a global head of quant research. We did some cool stuff there with one of my colleagues, Corvin. Corvin now he's in Panama actually. And then I moved in Greece, and in Greece, I had like a split between academia. So I joined the university and also a family office where we, traded several things, among them also Forex. So my exposure to OTC markets and, this very, very strange, world was early enough. We set up like 3 hedge funds. They all blew up. So that was a good lesson to learn.
Lessons, $1,000,000 lessons. I hear many $1,000,000 lessons.
Very expensive. Yes. Very expensive real world, seminars. So that made you understand what risk is all about and how painful margin trading can be. Which actually led also in the paper that we published like a couple of years ago with some colleagues on superketosis and so and black swan events. So then the interesting stuff started becoming more interesting. After the blow up of the hedge funds, I went back to the university. I went to Brown University in US, spent like 3-4 years studying, and at the same time I set up like a company, payments. It's called EveryPay. So what EveryPay was dreamed, or what we were dreaming of, is that we were in Greece, and one of my colleagues, Minas, was trying to integrate an API from a bank to make e-commerce payments. After like 3 months trying, he was like, okay, this thing has to be easier. It cannot be that, I need like 3 months to integrate an API to make payments online. So he said to me and another colleague, guys, why don't we set up a company that is producing APIs for making payments? That was the romantic view of things, because we realized that this is one of the most regulated field in the world, payments. So we got into this rabbit hole for quite a few years. So it took us like 3-4 years to get the license here in Greece, and another couple of years to convince the market that you can do payments with PSP. With a PSP, you don't have to be a bank. So it was a painful exercise as well, but it ended up in 2022 in a good exit. We sold the company into the biggest marketplace here in Greece, which is called Scrouch. It's the Amazon of Greece, and that was great because we fulfilled the part of what our dream was, to have a one payment API for everything. And we can come back on that later on to explain more what I mean, and why xMoney is actually, the vision to push this forward. Last couple of years ago, one of my best friends, Kostas, is one of the founders of another blockchain, because I didn't know you back then. So
a small world.
Yes. So I was trying to explore, this new world, this new technology, which is fascinating. And so Costa said, we need somebody with experience, or let's say someone that can, lead the foundation, the SWI Foundation. And so I led a couple of years the SWI Foundation. I was a global CEO, managed the treasury. We did some great stuff, but yet again, it was less relevant to what I wanted to do, which was pushing, the frontier on payments and make, payments like drinking water, which is why I'm here now. I was very lucky to meet you, and now I'm ready to, do the journey. I don't know if it's going to end up drinking water or something else, but at least we're in the right path.
100%.
100%. I can just agree. Maybe just to double click on something. I'm very curious if what time did you start EveryPay? So at what time, and then how long was the
time? Maybe the
process?
university. Maybe plan some timelines on the university,
Sure.
the PhD, EveryPay, and then some of the trading experience, and then the let's say SUI experience is probably much clearer.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Lucian. So let me draw a timeline here. So my PhD, I finished it at 2006. Actually, it was 2005. I got the PhD. Sorry, 2004. I joined Barclays Capital. 2006. I jumped into this wagon of the private. With the private office that here in Athens and the university. And around 2009, we started discussing about APIs and payments. And then we got the license in 2014, and we had our first client, our first, let's say, transaction was in July 2015 as a payment service provider. Then I continued doing this endeavor with the hedge funds until 2017, around there. A year after I joined Brown, which was at 2016. And then that continued for a few years. EveryPay was sold in 2022, as I told you. I stayed in the firm because of the SPA, as usually happens.
Sure.
The founders have to stay for a few years. 2023, I joined, 2022 actually, about the same year, I joined in the summer SUI Foundation as one of the founders. And then summer of 2024, September, I met a couple of guys. I think, you're here, sorry. So,
very good.
And I jumped to the other wagon, which is this amazing project, xMoney.
So maybe we'll dig a bit into the things, but I'll just step back and say from the outset, it's very rare that we find someone that is brilliant, has this mind that can understand, dig into modeling different complex situations and so on, has experience in some deep, clear environment like payments, and then also has this hunger still on to push and make things happen and so on, because people sometimes stop, and once they stop, it's very hard to get them going. But I'm always in awe and with respect when I see someone with the spark in their eyes and then with hunger to really push things forward. So maybe Lucian, please.
Yes, and how much spark? I can just say it's not only a spark. I think it's an entire fire there. So 100%.
100%. So maybe before digging into the experience of us meeting a bit and how it felt, maybe for you and how it felt for us, I would just double click on 2-3 points. What was from the PhD experience? What was maybe the most interesting or surprising lesson that you took away about life or the markets, or something that you did not thought was like that before, but then you discovered in the process of doing the PhD?
That's a great question. So the PhD as a process is very, very painful. So you have to be very resilient because it goes very slow, and that sometimes makes you feel that you don't have any progress. So you have to learn to be patient first, and second, to do a lot of reading. Why? Because in order to progress or find a solution to a problem or a question, you first have to form the question. And many times, if you don't know what's going on or what is out there, you cannot even, make the question. And, that's the most important thing. So Socrates said, you have to make the right questions. Otherwise, you don't get very far from with the answers. So that's the one thing that I think I somehow learned from the process. Now the knowledge, content, the knowledge content is amazing. You have your own time to read and to guide your mind where you find it more interesting. So that was something that felt always nice. Although the process of doing a PhD now has changed a lot since a long time ago, which means that you still have courses, you still have seminars, you still have quite a few things that you have to be agile. And I would say that the most interesting thing, or the most interesting, let's say, experience was the seminars. So when somebody from another a country or continent was coming and for 1.5 hours had to convince you about a solution to a problem that he or she is addressing. So that for me was the best time in the university. And actually, I was one of the very few students that I was following almost every seminar in the university, trying to grasp what's going on and new ideas.
I would just double click on these 2 points and state this. I think it almost took 30 years to understand that the hardest thing is to find the right question. And it's not the answer that's the hardest, but the right question. And sometimes you ask, every one of us ask so bad questions that they lead us astray. By default, the answer cannot be good if the question is not framed and reframed and so on. Right. So I'm quite happy to have rediscovered what Socrates said 2,000 years after. That's without knowing that he said it. I will also state that indeed Greg comes from Greece, and there's an absolutely rich and fascinating history about Athens and what Greece once was, and all these descendants, whether it's Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, and all the other guys. Absolutely fascinating. And it's also funny how you sometimes drop these nuggets of wisdom in our conversations from one of these good friends of the conversation. So very much appreciate this perspective, and very interesting to also hear about the filter that the PhD provides, because the PhD tests this type of discipline and determination and almost stubbornness to pursue the completion of an idea. You might go astray sometimes, you might study and so on. So the question is always, can you get back on track? Can you zoom out? Can you find the solution to the problem, irrespective of how many obstacles you'll get and how much it will feel that you're going crazy sometimes with all the books and everything you're trying to do. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I very much feel like this is a great test to start life with, right? Because then afterwards, if you can sustain this, that's a good proxy for the discipline and determination, and maybe even obsession that you need to push in to drive something home. Curious if you feel that's the right thing, or you'd change it a bit.
No, I think that's the right thing to think about it. One thing that the PhD or research in general is giving you is that you have a question. The question can be very relevant, but then you have to either prove or disprove this assertion or question, if it's right or wrong. And there it's where it comes thoroughness, because sometimes you can reject or accept something by having a few data points. But then what you realize is that actually you have to do a lot of, as we call them, robustness checks is your answer the right one? So we perturbate the data. We find another data that can validate or disqualify the existing one. And then if that also persists, we might change the method that we used in order to answer the question. And so if that also persists, then we might, do like a natural experiment if we have the ability, because economics a bit, it doesn't have actually the luxury of an experiment, right? So you have to somehow find a natural experiment that has happened at some point in time, and isolate everything except from what you are trying to study. So one thing that it gives you actually is that how close you can get into what actually is valid and what's not. So it gives you clarity somehow on what is happening, and sometimes, honestly, you're getting disappointed because your, let's say, assertion might be proven or disproven. So.
And what I'm also hearing is that this idea of asking the right question takes very different forms. The closer you get, the narrower you get, the more you try to filter and discuss maybe math versus some real world experiment versus some application of some idea, and so on. So the mental tools that you discover in the process seem to be the type of things that you then take with you your entire life. Just remember that you've stumbled into this, that you've had these questions, and then it seemed crazy, but then you somehow found a way to validate the assertion and what you were trying to point to. Maybe jumping one step further through the payments experience. Again, if you were to take one big lesson that you'd say is very underrated, but you'd heavily obsess around, please, Lucian.
Yeah. Yes. Let me do a bridge question here. I think in between. So very curious. What do you think, or what did you discover actually that payments and economics have in common, right? So how did you end up? Like, what was what are the edges or the aha moments that I think you discovered immediately once you looked on train and looked specifically into economics so many years, and then applied this to real mechanics of how the money flows or circulates around the world?
Well, that's a great question, actually, because one thing is the following. That one thing is how the economy is being pertained or studied in economy in let's say textbooks, and also some questions that you might be trying to answer in the economics field, and another completely vertical is how actually the economy is working in every day, which is payments. So the first thing that it struck me is that. As economists, we have no idea how this is happening, because it's like something that is happening in the microstructure, which is everyday life, and then we have like a theory that it describes incentives, agents, and politics and policies in the very long term, long term meaning from a few years to hundreds of years. So the first thing that struck me is the disconnect, let's say. But having said that, the economics, let's say, principles are very much the same if you think of from the point of view of the market. So which product are you going to develop? Is there a differentiation, or you're just providing the same service like everybody else? Are you competing in prices, or are you competing in quantities? Is there anything that you can do differently so you can charge something more, or you are all charging the same price because you face the same cost function? So things like that were like very useful, and actually one of them it was the reason why EveryPay became successful. And it was the switch from providing just acquiring, as we were calling it, so acceptance of cards or card payments, to create like an API or an infrastructure to make payments within marketplaces. So that was something that came from economics, right? So please, Lucian.
No. Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting, actually, to hear how it all connects. And then also, I felt always that whenever we discuss and look particularly at any kind of problem around economics or payments, especially having both of them, I think give you gives, generally speaking, a zoom in applied view, and then also bird's eye view that you can model on the fly 10 times more than just a regular engineer mind, I would say, as in my case, I would be able to. So no, always very, very, very interesting, actually, to see around that. I have another, a very small other question regarding economics. How do you, I'm not sure if you read anything about the latest Ray Dalio book, right? Before going into payments and the money flow and so forth. So I think he just brought a few weeks back, or months, I think, one of the newest books that addresses the U.S. economy.
I haven't read the book, to be honest with you. Although I'm quite aware of the problems that he's trying actually to address on the U.S. economy. Because there are problems that we see them for many years, but also, at the same time, the U.S. economy surprises us all, and overcomes the short-term problems, and keeps growing in astonishing rates. And for us, the let's say people that have studied, because I don't know if I can name myself economist, but I can still say that I have studied economics. So for us that we are studying long-term growth, we know that everything is about education and innovation. So an economy like the US that is attracting for so many years talent, and at the same time has one of the highest standards in education, either being undergrad or graduate, which is, I think, one of the top, is definitely pushing the frontier in the right direction.
Very interesting. Now I'll take one more, Benny, and then I'll let the mic to you. Now, coming closer, even closer, actually, to the payments. How much of the country's GDP you think is being captured, or global GDP is being actually at the current point of time captured through outdated infrastructure, payment infrastructure, or one of the big players that actually are moving, and maybe just some proportion to define a bit the market, coming closer to how and what are we going to talk about even further on?
Oh, that's a great question. And it just happened like 2 days ago that I had to talk with actually a potential partner. I was looking at the statistics from the European Union on payments, and European Union, in one thing that is good at last, is collecting data. So for the first part of 2024, the report is saying in payments that there were like 75 billion transactions worth of 213 trillion euros only the first half of 2024. So we are talking about payments is because it's about volume. It's huge. The amount of it's huge. 230 trillion in half a year is 2 times the global GDP, just from the European Union, right? So the numbers are huge. That's why no surprise, we are also on that a tree and trying to shake it and get the apple that is going to fall.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
However,
What currency? Yes, please.
Please, Lucian.
Yeah. I was wondering which is there a breakdown on the currencies that were specifically used within those?
The statistic is in euros, but the most interesting I think
even better.
Yes, the most interesting aspect is the following: from all these payments, only 6% is happening with a wallet infrastructure. So
what does it mean? What does it mean? Let's bring everybody to the same.
Yes, sure.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that you have like payments with cards, payments with cash, payments with from account to account, and payments from wallet to wallet. So payments from account to account and wallet to wallet, which should be the cheapest ones actually are not being used that much. So that's for me, it's like a puzzle, as we say in economics. Why on earth only 6% of people, they are using payments from wallet to a wallet, which is completely free? And there are many reasons that this happens, and I think that's one of the things that xMoney is envisioning to resolve by bringing other products in the market, like stablecoins and the things that can definitely make it more appealing. But still, for me, it's striking.
Yes, 100% agree. Maybe to touch on this one, I think if listening to those numbers and then thinking what were the products and the evolution of payments as we know it today during the last decade or couple of decades, it seemed that most of the evolution was driven by a few companies like Visa and MasterCard particularly, that they pushed, or Amex and some other big card issuers that actually built the entire infrastructure, and by capturing and putting capital, extremely big capital on those infrastructure, and actually promoting and making it so convenient that it will be it will feel always lighter to pay with a card than anything else, was most probably the incentive why we ended up with this kind of behavior. Right? Because I think it's not just because that people don't want cheaper products, but it's very much a matter of educating, and a very much a behavior and a product driven that gives you some sort of satisfaction. And I think the US ads around that were the magic on how families were happier after swiping the cards. And that's, I think, an entire story to be told around that. So, yeah. Beniamin, sorry, I was keeping...
Whether the ads were true or not remains to be discussed and further elaborated on. But I definitely agree that the behaviors are very puzzling in some sense, as Greg mentioned. And then also enlightening once you look at the payments companies, because it's not rationally, it does not add up. Something is open and doesn't add up. And then once you look a bit at the interests of the payments companies, then some, some lacking behavior, some lacking infrastructure, some big opportunities tend to become very obvious and very interesting. And indeed, this brings us much closer to the conversation. It's actually a great context. Now, maybe last point on this part, Greg, from the experience you had with payments, what's the biggest lesson? You've taken a lot of lessons and so on, but what's the biggest thing you've learned that's very underrated, and then maybe you'd very much obsess over whatever you do in payments?
Well, that's another great question. And the answer is, to me at least now it's obvious. It was not obvious when I started, is that from the outside, everybody thinks that, okay, it's about payments. It's about, holding a card, as Lucian said, and going to the grocery and then pay. What it struck me is the degree of complexity, not only technical complexity, but network complexity and regulatory complexity that payments have. It's a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare. It's so much regulated, so complex, and so deep the roots of all this of the entire system.
I feel we're already sharing too much alpha here, and I hope some of our enemies try to do payments to suffer at least a bit of the pain we've been going through.
Or they are already sympathetic to us because they understand the same at some point, and that's the biggest lesson. Payments is not a walk in the park for sure. They are, probably the blood of the economy, and everybody wants to be on payments because it's transactional. It happens every day, every second, and everybody thinks, oh, okay, I want to be there because it's just sitting and just getting money. But it's not like that. It's not at all like that. It's very, very, very tough.
Yes, to add on top of that, actually, while some of the inside stories that I think I could recommend some materials for people to just a bit, if they are interested, to learn more about that. So while building the technical stack and building the teams and everything with what we're doing at xMoney, at some point of time there were some fraudsters literally pushing the APIs, and just to share the first-hand experience, I just invite whoever wants to build something, first push a gateway out, put the product out, and just, if you could hear the door locker, actually, you will hear how literally every second, actually, there's someone trying to literally break in and break that kind of ceiling in any possible way. So maybe on top of that, while building that, there were two particularly points that I really loved. One is actually I because it was so challenging, I started doubting a bit, right? So I doubted, okay, so is it are we doing something wrong? Is it something that maybe how far are we actually from the reality? Is it do everybody else have the same problems? And I did not have too many friends around to check actually do have a reality check and so forth. And then I took the book of Musk, the founders book, where they 20 years ago they started building X.com and PayPal. Right. So it was the merger and the entire creation around that, and was literally funny to go step by step on the process and look what were the challenges. And one of the days, just to share an insight, one of the engineers, they were saying, look, that it started having growth and so forth. It was very early days, very challenging. Like the most of the challenging part was dealing with fraudsters and security incidents and so forth. And then while one of the days in the morning, one of the engineers comes into the office screaming and says that most probably they are not solvent anymore. That's how much money they were losing through the hacks and so forth. Now, just going through that and then seeing what was actually what's the evolution of payments and where do payments succeed and most of the payment company fails, I ended up the conclusion that 90% of the companies either way fail. In general, 90 plus. And from the rest of the 5%, 5 of them actually die again from frauds and security causes. And then the rest of the 5, most probably
because of legal reasons. The last of the 5 because of legal reasons. 0.001% survive.
Yes. It's very, very much.
Something that, what you're saying, Lucian, is very correct. And what happens is many times is that is the following. Then, so when you push something in the GitHub or you push something in production, then probably you haven't done enough tests. Never have done enough tests, right? So test on the fly or fly on the test. I mean, it doesn't. I don't know how to resolve that.
Fly on the test. I'll borrow that.
Yes.
I'll borrow this one.
But what happens is that from my experience from EveryPay, also what it makes a huge difference is size. So it's different, to create like an API. So when we started, building the EveryPay's API, we had 4 APIs and Stripe had 6. So back then, and actually Stripe was our, let's say, the
North
God,
Star.
the North Star. Yes. Of course, Stripe is one of the biggest payment companies in the world, very much respected with hundreds of APIs now. But why I'm saying that is because these 4 APIs, they could do payments. Fantastic. Yes. When you have when you have one client or you have like a few hundreds of transactions and a few millions, it works. But if you scale up and these become millions of transactions and hundreds of millions of volumes, then things start to change very differently. Everything is different. So people or founders are very good in finding an idea. Fantastic, it works. But then very few people can understand the value of scale and like how you can scale that into the masses. And that's something that I liked when we started talking together, because I understood that you understood the value of how you can scale things, which is if you want to win the world or the markets, you have to be able to scale. I sometimes it's we are building too much too early, but you have to have like that in the back of your mind, and we learned it the hard way because we had to write again and again the algorithms from the beginning, and the software and the processes and the procedures. So it's not like only the software that you have to change, or you have to change everything.
And I think this is the best type of context for people to get much more a sense, because sometimes, of course, what you always hear maybe only about the great milestones that are happening. You never hear about the dragons that you're fighting every day, whether it's technical dragons, whether it's hacks and scammers and people just trying to rob you every minute, or regulatory challenges that somehow suffocate you literally to death if you're not careful enough. So navigating through them, going through the pains, through the challenges, but then still finding a way through that to that North Star of what can be provided to the world, and what the world really needs at this particular moment in time. That's a great segue actually into our conversation and how we met together. So I'm curious, maybe out of the memories you have, what's one memory of an initial conversation that you remember, maybe when we met, and then was striking to you or interesting, and then perhaps Lucian and myself will also share something just of how things felt, and then we'll go into the big vision and product and where we're going.
Well, what would struck me is that honesty. You are very honest. I mean, you from the very start you said, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, and this is what we're trying to understand. And to me, this is illuminating, because it's very rare that you meet people that they are very honest on what they know and what they don't know. Which it's a great. It's a, how can I say? It's a signal of for me of wisdom, in the sense that in my humble opinion, nobody knows everything, and so we all in search for that. So when you see people thinking like that, okay, you say, okay, yes, it's Socrates as well.
Some Greek guy said he knows nothing actually.
Yes, exactly. One thing that I know nothing. So when you see people thinking the same, you stop 1 second and you say, okay. So these folks, they know what they're talking about, because the things that they know them well. There's so many people out.
Please. No. I did not want to interrupt.
In fields that they involve a lot of transactions, money, reputation, there is no space to do very large mistakes. Lucian said some things like I forgot to close like a loop or something when pushing a code. That can happen, and it's part of the game. But in general, when you are doing payments, you have to be very careful. And when you meet people that they think very thoroughly and they understand things very deeply, it makes you actually happy.
I mean, the blockchain experience with safety critical environments just gives you the biggest goosebumps, because you understand you can, at every point in time, like any colon or whatever comma that you forget, might bring something that you never thought could backfire like that, and so on. So we've learned with the team a lot of things actually in a painful way. And a lot of things we've tried to always just set the highest standard possible. And we always discover that there's something we don't know. Like, however much you know, you can always discover more. You can always learn more. So it's much, much more elegant to say, like Socrates, hey, I know so much, to say I know nothing, than to actually try to overcompensate and say I know everything. That's the biggest mistake. Whenever you see someone that knows everything, you should run, because then something bad is about to happen in some way or another. So very, very much agree. Lucian, I'm curious, what's one memory that comes to mind about Greg?
Yes. So I think to be very specific on the location, I particularly know. I think first time we met, Danny convinced me that. So we arranged a meeting and so forth. It was still delayed for, well, from all of us were extremely busy with thousand things, but then. Uh, Danny insisted, particularly, look, there's this Greek guy, very smart, very. I think he's literally the. So he went, and I think you met in Singapore with Danny,
Yes.
and then he kept talking. That he said, look, I think from the entire week. Is this guy, this Greg, that it stays in my mind. I cannot get it. You need to definitely go and meet. You need to, and then he stood by that, and then I think on pretty short notice we agreed that I will fly over to Athens, and then went. I think somewhere we had. I don't think it was even we had an ice, or I think it was just an espresso. We sat together, and then literally it was a match from the beginning. Especially Greg mentioning all his experience with the payments, with the PSP, with EMIs, with everything, literally, and then us coming and saying, "Hey, look, I think we are gonna build this way." This is what I think, how I see the market, and this is how we want. I think that was a very deep and from 0 to 100 discussion. I think it was very few people that you can literally go and literally you just shake hands, and then in 60 seconds you ramp up the almost like saying in 60 seconds you ramp up the discussion, then you keep it on fire for the next two hours. I think we also went ate something just very late, and of course at a very good Greek restaurant, and then we had another discussion on that day, and that was the initial. Of course, I went home and also told Beniamin we had a very good discussion about it, and said again, yes, Greg definitely is one of a kind, and that I think I wanted to build, and we wanted to build with. Moving forward, and I think it took, of course, too long until we joined forces. But now that we are on the same boat, I think I think the force is unstoppable.
I will say that to Danny's credit, he sensed that Greg was special, and he specifically said, Greg, whatever he told me, it seemed like he was part of our team. He literally told me exactly what we're trying to do. And then it was unbelievable because I did not have this type of chemistry and this type of closeness with someone where they say it almost felt they have read our internal documents or whatever we were trying to do. So I said, okay, that definitely is very interesting. And I remember that I've done, before flying together, actually with Lucian, I've done 4 or 5 conversations where I knew there was something special there. So again, very honestly, the background, the brilliant, and the hunger. And I was very straightforward from the start. Like I see smart people, a lot of smart people in the world, but they don't have a hunger anymore. There's no fire there.
Also the one that are also beautiful and
yes,
they're
so this was the exact point. So after 4 or 5 conversations, I remember Greg asking, "Hey Beniamin, so why do you keep coming here? Because you make me feel bad." Like I should come to Romania, or we should meet somewhere else, and so on. But I was very, very intentional in getting to the point where we had some context together. There was enough context for us to sit and have the serious, difficult, interesting conversations about the big plays, about what we could build. But I was always impressed by these elements, and I think this a lot of credit can go to the different lenses you've had on, Greg, and you're bringing to the conversation as we were discussing before. So great initial start, and this type of qualities we always love, even in all the people around, whoever wants to join, like if they're super hardcore, will not sleep, will not eat until they get something done, and generally love challenges, especially in the payment space, they should just ping us on some channel, because there's always more challenges, and
Not
there's
on the
always
API.
more.
They should ping us on not on the APIs and so forth, because
100%. Now, maybe we have a bit of the context now.
Maybe one more small detail that I wanted to touch on, and
Please.
I think was pretty much missing for the podcast today. I think from Greg, I remember it took me a while to figure out. Actually, Greg wears very Greek T-shirts or T-shirts with Greek inscriptions most of the time, which I love. I think and this is particularly, I think it was now that I look back, it was one of those T-shirts as well. I think even first time when we met. So love the Greek vibes, by the way.
Thank you both. You're very kind.
Maybe to bring things a bit closer to. So we have this context. We've looked at things. I'm setting the context now for xMoney crypto, xMoney fiat. We've hit our head against the wall, against many walls, on many challenges. And at the same time, we've put together something that, if put to greatest use, if taken to a completely different level, with skills and understanding that are deep within the payment space, we thought could be extraordinarily useful. So this was the context where we said, let's sit together and let's discuss about the big vision. What's the big vision? Because there's a great amount of licenses, technology, teams, but there are many teams in the world. What is it that's super special and timely for what we are trying to build together, where Greg could really spearhead the efforts and pull people in the right direction to really drive them to the completely next level? So curious a bit, Greg, what's the current vision? If you were to summarize and dive a bit into what's the most exciting thing about xMoney and how you see it, would be very curious to hear it.
Yes, thank you, Beniamin, for this question, because it's what drive me and drives us all in this endeavor. So xMoney, as you said, it has one of the best, maybe the best technology out there. Then it has a great team. And of course, it has products that honestly, I don't think that any other, entity in Europe right now has. I know that there are many that are trying to get there, but probably it's one of the very few that has the products in the market and people are using them. Because it's a different thing to have the vision to build something, and it's a different thing to have the product on the market. Very different. So in terms of the vision, what I think, day and night, yes. Absolutely. So in terms of the vision, what we want to do to build is simply what I said in the beginning, which is offer one way of people to interact seamlessly. And this means that it doesn't matter if I want to interact and pay with crypto, fiat, with my with my T-shirt or whatever. It shouldn't be that difficult. So xMoney, what it's trying to do is trying to, solve a very simple problem, which is, okay, I have exposure in crypto. Okay, how do I buy something in a grocery? I have exposure into fiat. Okay, fantastic. How do I do this seamless? And also I gain
Please get out of fiat. Please get out of fiat.
It's still there. And that's one, that's one thing also that is important for xMoney, because it's like a hybrid and offers, the best of two worlds. So the vision is to create the best seamless, payment infrastructure in the world, where people just use it and they just, don't think about, things like, how much I paid, how I paid, what I paid. If we succeed on that, then we would have offered the fantastic, paradigm of how, this very humble but very important function should happen. I know that we're not the only ones out there Lots of people, they have the same vision, and I wish them the best of luck. And we should all be pushing on that, in this frontier, because it's not easy. There's so many frictions that it's not. If it was easy, it would have been done already. So I know that somebody might say, "Okay, wow, what on earth Greg is saying?" I mean, I can do payments, whenever I want, whatever I want, and wherever I want. Not really.
Maybe bringing it even closer a bit. If you look at fiat, at crypto, and at stable coins, like what's the problem and what's the target market that you think gives this go-to market strategy a completely different edge? What do we have and leverage that no one else does, or people do generally very, very differently?
Yes, that's a great question as well. So it all starts from the problem, right? So if I am, let's say in the crypto world, how do I, get my crypto and start paying in 1 click or 2 clicks? How do you do that? xMoney has done that. It has one of the best UX, experiences out there, and one of the best, I think, wallets that you have built as a group, which is Exportal, and you can do that. It's ready. You can do it. The next problem that you have is, of course, you are talking about consumers and merchants and people that are selling stuff. So you have to convince both to use these new rails, or you have to show them the benefits of these new rails. And what are the benefits? The benefits are very simple. First is cost. I mean, now, a merchant is paying 2, 3, 4%, depending on where he is or she is in the world. He pays like a huge amount of money, which is on the gross revenue, to just, make available to the consumer a payment method. This is crazy. With a stable coin, this can be done. Yeah, with a stable coin, this can be done in seconds and in 1/100th of the cost.
I would only say amen to this. So the faster we have it, the faster it will make people smile. Lucian?
Yes, before going into stablecoin, just to not unveil everything, then maybe just going and double clicking on the cost. What do you know? Like, can you share maybe the numbers? What's the average number that the merchant pays right now that is translated into consumer costs per every dollar or dollar, or what's the metric that is being, just to educate a bit the audience and define the more strict points?
Well, everybody can educate himself very fast. You can ask, ChatGPT, but before you go there, I'll tell you the story, which is, anything that any merchant that, and if you take the global average, is above 2%. And in some regions, depending on on the characteristics, it's not only that you pay more than 2% for every $100 that you accept for your, let's say, sales. You have to pay $2-3 only for payments. There is also the issue of settlement. You have to wait until at least 2 to 10 days in some regions. So imagine 10 days. I don't have my money. And so I have to, the cash cycle has to accommodate a 10 days liquidity for buying these, from wherever I buy them. And that, translates into cash cycles down in the economy. So you imagine how much liquidity is trapped in the economy and can be released if we go to instant settlement. Example.
Yes. And yes, 100%. And maybe also prior to, like, as an evolution to that, very curious, like, does this also with the merchant API or payment split specifically unlocks and breaks another, or unlocks another chunk of liquidity in the market? Because I think that was another middle point where some of the regulation changed within Europe, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because I mean, to be honest, and to give credit to the European regulators, they try to do that with instant payments, so account to account. But this still goes through, a banking system that, it needs settlement, it needs an intermediary, and it has a cost. And, what happens that, because, banks are working, on a different, scale, and they have themselves, huge OPEX, at the end, it comes up to be a bit cheaper than going through these schemes, but still it's not as cheap as, blockchain, which is like going through the chain. You don't have to pay anybody in the middle. You have to pay probably, the engineers, but that's good because you always pay the engineers at the end of the day to build the APIs. But that's a good thing, right? You create like a knowledge and innovation. So it definitely, goes and tries to solve the problem. The issue, though, is the following: the merchants, because they sometimes internalize this cost in their product pricing. They don't, they're not particularly interested on the different, or new types of payment methods. So what makes them move from that stance, which is very long lasting, is okay. When a consumer is buying a good, does it have any other benefit? So the entire economy or the entire, new economy is moving to an incentives-based or rewards-based, behavior. Because when the consumer comes and pays for something, you should reward him or her for many reasons. For the fact that came to your site and honored you with her preferences or his preferences, because it bought again and again, because it just happened that it's satisfactory and leaves his or her data for you to analyze and become better. So all these elements cannot exist without blockchain. It's impossible. Nobody owns the data or handles ownership of data better than blockchain. So these are things that are going to improve the experience of the consumer, and of course the merchant give him new tools to give better products and services to the consumers.
Maybe yes. I'll just add 2-3 points, and then I'll let you again continue on this path, because what you're saying is essentially the world needs a simpler way to interact with payments, whether that's a unified API that enables you to do fiat, to do crypto, and to not care at the end of the day, and to target a specific type of merchants. So to give the merchants these tools so that they can serve their users much faster, much better, much faster, and let the economy just spin faster and at a better sort of bandwidth, if you will, or volumes, if you will. The key point is also to understand maybe here a scale of this problem, just to give our listeners a bit a visual overview. Maybe you can elaborate a bit of where Visa and MasterCard are at maybe volumes and valuations, just to give us a sense of how large is this, maybe how large is the market, and Visa and MasterCard are excluding a lot of the other payments provider or even API provider like Stripe and so on. But it just paints something maybe for the user even clearer so that they can think and understand how difficult this problem is, but also how valuable this problem is to be solved if you think about it.
Just to give you like the statistics that we can, somehow referred to here is they're coming again from this data set that is public from the European Union. So if you think about it, from this 213 trillion that are happening, a chunk, around 30% is with cash. So cash is still, quite important. But from the rest of the 70%, 90% or 85 to 90% is coming from card payments. So we're talking about, a huge amount that is going through cards, which I'm not saying that it's not the right thing to do. They have the infrastructure and they are building a huge network for 60 years. So right now, let's be honest. Visa and MasterCard, which are the top one, both of them are in the top 10 of the most valuable brands globally. There is a reason. They are like a, let's say, natural monopoly in some sense, because they have the network that they are building for tens of years in order to serve that. And of course, as very smartly and correctly Lucian said, they have also figured out the element of the consumer. I'm holding something. I'm holding a gold card. I'm holding a black card. I'm holding, I go to the store and I throw it in the face of, the people, and I'm somebody. these things, for whatever reason, they play a role, unfortunately or fortunately, in our society. And, these folks are very smart on using them. The other thing is that it's very tough to come up with a solution that is as unified and as easy to use globally. And that the reason is that if let's say Visa and MasterCard are two schemes that can be encompassed in one card, it's very difficult, to encompass the same, usefulness in hundreds of millions of phones that have different applications, different, characteristics, different, apps that, pertain to payments. So that fragmentation gives the room still for Visa and MasterCard to exist. If, however, there is one technology that can unify, the experience, then, that will change.
Yes. So to put a few numbers here for people to understand, Visa and MasterCard are each valued, probably as we speak, at something like 600 billion and 400 billion. That may have changed in the meantime, might fluctuate at any day, 10%, 20%, depending on the tariffs that will be announced every day. But I mean, it just gives you a scale of $1 trillion in just these two companies. There are many other companies that provide different payment solutions, but there's an extraordinary value in providing and solving something that translates to better products, more inexpensive products for the users, and then faster payments, more streamlined payments for the merchants. So I'll step back a bit and maybe elevate the game or open the question: how does stablecoins come into this? Why are stablecoins the secret weapon?
Yes, that's the 1 trillion question. And I think that, everybody would understand the following. Suppose that from these 213 trillion transactions, 1% was going through stablecoins, not schemes, nothing.
Yes.
Right? When it goes through a scheme, the average cost, we said it's around 2%, right? The average cost of going through a stablecoin is 0.001% in terms of percentage, right? Because we also have to apply it into the amount that is being spent. So if you do a very simple calculation, how much money we will save by applying only 1% transactions through a stablecoin. 213 trillion multiplied by 1%, multiplied by 1.99%, we're going to save from card payments. So it's obvious why everybody's getting there. I mean, Stripe, which is the next biggest, let's say, payments company in the world, it's like it's valued north of 80 billion. The first thing they did is, okay, now that it's possible, let's do it. Because even if you save 1% of your transactions, they go through this stablecoin technology or blockchain technology, and through stablecoins, you save a huge amount of money.
And to put it again very specific, so from 213 trillion, 1% would be 2.3 trillion. That's insane. That's just to give the people a perspective. What's the GDP of Greece right now?
300 billion.
Is it? No, and Romania is probably 250. So you get a sense of how many more times larger than the entire GDP of a country would be a 1% saving in those types of fees. So that's absolutely extraordinary. And this also gives you a scale, because 1% is not the final point, but is certainly a target that could be reasonable, and that could be targeted, especially with the edge, with the regulatory pressures, with the opportunities that open up right now. Because I think the timing for which we're having this conversation is also important. And then maybe I'll also let Lucian share 2-3 ideas on technology, product, and how this might tap into it. But Greg, before that, why is this timing different from any other point in time, given the regulatory challenges, the changing geopolitical administration, and all of that?
I think the part of the answer is in the question that you framed, Benjamin, which is for whatever reason, Europe is very strong in regulation. And for the consumer, that's great news because you always feel that you are protected from
I wanted to ask: is this an edge, or is this a feature or a bug? But that's
yes.
an entire conversation.
Yes, I think it's a feature. It's a good feature, and actually, what they say. I mean, when I was teaching at Brown in the other side of the Atlantic, where I am actually now, is that we're talking about innovation and patents and all the interesting things that come with the ingenuity of people. And I was telling them that the regulator of Silicon Valley is the European Commission. So this is what happens actually in many respects. But having said that, for the first time in history, Europe is a bit ahead. Because it's, I think, the only region globally that actually has a framework of this new technology that came, and it will remain for us for the years to come. And that's good news. Why? Because if you want to, make comfortable the consumer, to make him, that holds all the power at the end of the day. If you want to make him or her comfortable, that this technology is going to be used to make his or her life easier. In many respects, easier to use, cheaper, safer, more transparent, which is all about blockchain, then that's good news. And we should, take this advantage and build on that all the products that we think they're going to fulfill this expectation. So this time is different. Why? Because we have one technology that can act as the backbone of the network that we need. Before, everything was fragmented. Even the account to account is fragmented because you need APIs for IBAN A to connect with APIs of IBAN of bank B. 3,500 banks only in EU, right? I mean, okay, you can use Soltage or some other aggregator. Yes, but it's so complex, all these things, that it doesn't make any sense. Whereas you can use like one blockchain or one let's say a bridge that has all of them, or you can use the multiverse X backbone that's super modular, and have like one communication layer. That's it. So yes. Regulatory, we are there from the 1st of January of 2025. Technology-wise, we're quite close. We have fast, secure, scalable blockchains like Multiverse X, so they can serve what we said: scalability, speed, and also economy, unit economics. And the third element is that we also have the ability to educate everybody in the market that this is the way forward. You can save a lot by using this technology. You can benefit 100%. Yourself and your consumers.
Absolutely. Lucian, if you were to restate it in your words, what's the unfair advantage or edge we're having?
Yeah. Very, very good question. Let me I'll point to two examples prior to that I was writing and publishing a bit about what we're doing here. And the case study was yes. No, on X and some of the social media accounts. And then I was framing like this: from a banned industry to from a banned industry to an industry that has the capacity to upgrade a country's GDP by at least 3%. And this is a very simple headline. But the case is actually, and the thought process was the following. If we look and observe a bit what happened in the previous months, Stripe went And Stripe went and acquired from a business which was mainly a Web2 gateway for Visa and MasterCard, and acquired the first, I think it was one of the boldest moves at that point in time, to acquire Bridge Company for $1.1 billion, right? So this is how the year started a bit. And then immediately after, Visa just announced and published their reports where they show that crypto and stablecoins, especially payments, has caught up by 90% in the annualized volumes compared to the volumes processed over the Visa network. I should actually brought here all the stats and the graphs actually, which are pointing, but more than happy actually, or inviting people to look on the Visa reports. Now, the current payment scheme operates at an average of 3% of a dollar, 2% or 3% of a dollar. Being aware of the properties of a blockchain as a transport layer for any kind of information, the case for digital payments has built all the momentum needed during the last 5 years. And then as a result of that, actually, any publicly listed payment company that will not integrate this kind of stablecoin technology will have pretty similar fate as compared to Volkswagen with Tesla. This is my simplest version. If we look at the valuation of any kind of company that is actually leveraging AI, leveraging machine learning, leveraging this kind of pure technology stack that is not sleeping on legacy technical debt that is accumulating every day, which will come at the cost and the expense of a merchant or merchants and users, especially, or buyers per any single dollar or cent spent. This is particularly why I think we have an unfair advantage, where I think why this kind of technology makes sense. Now, yes, I think just summarize a bit and then also puts it into the right box. That maybe I also have as a second point to prep it up and then have some financial years. So this is the case for cheaper payments that improve profitability in companies' case, right? So we have the financial years of 3 companies here: Walmart, Chipotle, and Kroger's, where they have a revenue for example, in case of Walmart, 648 billion with a net income of 15.6 billions. And then if we would have put and modeled this into a scenario where we have widespread stablecoin adoption and a 1.5% improvement to transaction costs, that will translate to one of the company's revenue. So that will translate to 9.72 billions. A new net income for the company actually translated to 25 billion. And the current market cap it is around 759 billion, where after applying this kind of technology to this to their current payment stream, there will have an increase, a new market cap of around 1,234 billion, with an increase of 434 billions. This is just the simplest way why I think it builds up the entire case when it comes to, and it screams how much potential and how important this is for a simple company, for a single experiment that we ran the simulation and looked over those numbers. I hope this builds a bit again the case why I please, Greg.
And just to add that you haven't factor in the cash cycle. You haven't factored in the people that you need right now to do all these payments and do the settlements.
Yes.
So it's definitely something that is going to change the way that we have thought about and adds a lot of value there in the entire process. And just to add something on something that Beniamin said, what the new administration did is it just pushed the wheels to move for the rest of the world as well, because Europe is not, it didn't pass this regulation yesterday. It's like 4 or 5 years now that he's talking, but nobody's paying attention because the big kids in the block they were not there yet. Their mindset were somewhere else. Now that they're there, I mean, from my experience and what I'm hearing from the market, and I'm happy to share it with everybody here, is that everyone is trying to search for a jurisdiction to become regulated, either being
100%.
in the far west or the far east. Everybody is trying to get somewhere regulated, because we all understand that it's time, and the time comes where if you are not regulated, you will not be able to operate. What xMoney is doing is already there. So that's a huge advantage, and we are happy that we see other players coming in, of course, because it's a free entry, game. But we're one of the first ones, and we think that we have a head start, in the sense that we have some as we say, early stage hiccups. We have already gone through them, and we can offer a seamless issuing, acquiring, and stablecoin products in the market.
I will probably try to almost translate this a bit to some of the people, the different players that are looking at this, because sometimes is, for instance, just investors from around the world. Sometimes it's exchanges and partners from around the different ecosystems. And sometimes it's just builders that either want to leverage this, put it in their products, and so on. So before going to the almost the crypto subject a bit, and how it plays out, and how we're moving forward, and why it's all also super exciting, I will summarize what you pointed out as this is a global payment opportunity in the order of tens, hundreds of trillions. And there's an arms race around the world of who will take it, who will serve these marketplaces, these users, and in what way. And all we've shared up until this point is almost the case that if you could have one platform that provides the simplest, seamless, fast, instant payment stream across the world, wherever you may be, and also has the regulatory clearance, then I guess you're in a pretty decent position to have the conversation and to be at the table. Now, we also invite the different, for instance, the different exchanges, the different partners, the different investors to take a look at what they might want to implement, what they might want to leverage in this regulatory environment, because we have several very productive conversations with large partners from around the world. Even people building in the different ecosystem, whether it's merchants from around the world or crypto projects, crypto merchants, encourage them to take a look at the solution and onboard it and go through the process, because sometimes one experiment opens your eyes 1,000 times faster than almost any kind of normal conversation. So extremely excited about this. And then I'll only say that stablecoins seem to be the largest product market fit at the intersection of, let's say, blockchains and payments, in the order of producing billions and billions of profits for some of the largest stablecoin providers in the world. So not only is it a very interesting and huge problem to solve, there is a lot of challenge, there is a lot of pain in the regulatory and technological part, but then there's also a big reward at the end of the tunnel for whoever can get it, whoever can serve the users compellingly. So Lucian, I'll let you, I think you want to add something on this front, and then we'll progress perhaps a bit on the crypto side of the story, why there's a lever on that front, and it makes a very compelling case.
Yes, definitely. So maybe going back a bit to the product, I think I can just highlight a bit how what our product alliance would look like, right? So when I look at xMoney and the way it has been composed, pretty much there were the two worlds, so very much separated with fiat and crypto. But then coming back actually by having and being able to be in the space actually at the time, at the frontier when the market is actually becoming, or all the licenses, let me put it this way, all the licenses that we have built, acquired, and contributed or accumulated over the entire the entire stack of xMoney is at the, I would say, complementing and peaking in the version of the current markets. Now, maybe coming back to closer product lines. So on the one hand, we have this kind of B2B2C where we're I think as a xMoney institution, we are able to serve different wallet providers with on the one hand account custody or account and fiat and crypto account custody, then on-ramp and off-ramp specifically to any kind of wallet where, for example, Xportal is one of the first clients that we have built. And then on top of that, which is actually the one of the retail distribution mechanism through which we are actively actually partnering with many other wallets and many other Web 2 and Web 3 actually interfaces that will actually onboard and serve as a first customer facing interface, or as close as possible as you as a listener, where you will interact with this kind of technology. On the other hand, I think what most of the other businesses and even players in this industry was actually the typical, I would say, acquiring business, right? Where you connect with merchants, and then on that end, you pretty much go merchant by merchant in the traditional world. And then you are able actually, because of the license, again, because of the stack that we built, not only we can process the cards that are issued for the retail through those customer interfaces that we are providing to products like xMoney, but then also going back and then acquire and settle those funds to a self-custodied business accounts for those enterprises, right? And then on top of that, while doing that, and actually while collecting and having the entire user data and the entire license stack, what if you could, regardless of any kind of currency that the user is actually having or custodying in any in any of his accounts, actually will be able to blur the line, so to say, and then actually be able to interchange, spend, and settle on those. Those are just two of the points. I'm pausing here and maybe giving a bit of space to Greg or Beniamin if you want to add anything. Also, please let me know if I'm telling too much. I can not reveal too much alpha, but I think
enough. So, Lucian, what you're saying actually is very simple. What we do is we call every marketplace that's out there, which is the intersection of thousands of merchants and millions of consumers, to come to xMoney and have their own internal, and they have their own, closed loop system that it can open very easily as well, because xMoney has the ability to create interoperability with any system and any other merchant in the world. So this is the call of the night, let's say, or the call of this podcast. To my humble opinion.
100% agree, and this is, as I said, I think the evolution of those two previously tackled distribution pillars that most of the companies were doing in the previous cycle or in the previous distribution methods. And this is now tackling specifically marketplaces and the intersection between consumer and merchants is actually the peak, I think, to what payments and where I think we're gonna be serving this. And I'll maybe one last point, and then I'll give it to Beniamin. So if in blockchains, we as founders build blockchains, and we have empty blocks that are being produced. And then we need to find builders that are building and building applications on top of that will be successful, and they will fill those blocks in payments in Black Friday, in a single Black Friday event. A marketplace in any of those European countries have more users than the entire blockchain industry, almost, I would say, as a whole, right? So this is one day, and this is just the case where I think the distribution, compared to anything else, it is one of a kind. I have not, and I think pretty much everybody will copy it very soon. But today I'm just enjoying a bit.
Yeah, you're spot on that. And just to double down and give some numbers, because it happens to have researched them in the European Union. Actually, the top 4 or 5 marketplaces, they collect from 45 to 75% of the entire retail sales of a country. So, if blockchain is a natural, a blockchain and stablecoin is a natural evolution of the currency to be used, marketplaces are, the place where we should find them.
Amen. We can have the mic drop and stop right there, and it would have been it would be a really great conversation already. I think so if I zoom out, we've shared a bit the context of how we came to these ideas, the backgrounds, the lenses from which we look. We shared a bit the vision, and then also the insider view on the different product lines, the different business lines. And if I were to almost summarize this, as you looked at it, there's fiat, there's crypto, and there's stable coins. And when you apply this network level interface, it simplifies and opens up the services so that people don't care and merchants don't care. And the only thing is the benefit that they get at speeds that no one else can offer, and only blockchain technology sort of can facilitate this. Now, if I move one step further, and there's already a clear idea in their mind, even in Europe, how large the market is, not to mention globally, how large the challenge is, how large the volumes are, and so on. If I move one step further, I also want to stress a bit this idea and mental process that we went through, where this initially, as you say, seems like an idea, a great idea. Everyone will want to do payments, right? Once they hear about this is the biggest opportunity. They want to do payments and so on. But then there's also a lot of mental cycle, a lot of energy, a lot of resources that need to be put in this, and a clear structure through which you can really build this with a great team that understands a few of these different aspects and can bring them together. Because I think usually people just like to hear the benefits. Hey, I get the benefits and so on. And then I forget that this never happens overnight. This takes people's lives, actually people's lives, and this is the price we usually pay to build this. And maybe we'll share 2-3 ideas here about the idea of setting a clear structure for this as an independent entity that will pursue the largest market opportunity possible, but in a really compelling way, with marketplaces, with even other blockchain partners that we're bringing close and thinking serious about. Why that makes sense, why that's the reasoning. And then also after that, we'll touch a bit on how the crypto play fuels into this and enables us to do this. Because this, I feel, almost are two thorny, usually, discussions that need to be addressed. And then with that context set, I feel like a lot more productive conversations will happen around the community, around the builders, around even the investors that want to tap into this great platform that we've put in front of them. So feel free, maybe Lucian or Greg, whichever of you wants to share a bit about the structure and idea and setting that in place.
Yes. More than happy, actually. As I mentioned and started here with the modeling of a bit of the products and the way they are supposed to serve the market. On the one hand, B2B2C, which will imply by necessity that the product, in order to have scale distribution, will partner up with many more wallets, with many more interfaces that will bring the customer distribution and customer acquisition as far as possible. There is no discussion to that, and this will be just I think the community on the one hand will feel a bit like we're taking the toys. It's like the kid grew up only with one it was one at the parents, and then you suddenly give the toy to someone else to play with it, and that will, I think, it will very much feel like that for the multiverse at first, but then I think once you see that actually the joy is bigger when you have brothers and sisters, I think this will have a different experience.
So much wisdom. I feel so much wisdom is being shared in this podcast. Not only technical wisdom, but also life wisdom. Please, Greg.
Me trying the one that don't have kids yet, but
well, it's a great experience itself. It's like payments. It looks nice from the beginning, but it's not that easy. So my 2 cents here in what Beniamin says, which is quite important, is that if we think about the path here, is that okay? You have to have the technology for sure and the products. So that's something that you have to have. If you don't have that, you cannot enter that game. So as Lucian said, either you start with the right mindset and the right infrastructure, or you cannot enter this game. Now, in terms of the investors and the investor space, I think that myself being an investor, I think that investors have to be much more open and invest on any effort, and any team out there is serious about solving this issue. And I call all of them to look seriously, all the teams that are out there, and they're pushing the frontier towards this new layer of communication between people through payments, because that's what we're talking about here, right? You communicate in some sense, right? You communicate. The consumers are communicating with the merchants. The merchants are communicating with their providers. So it's like an engine that has many layers. And the last element that is something that you, Beniamin, mentioned about what the role of blockchain could be further on, is the following: it's interoperability. One thing that we notice is that there are like reward systems or payment systems or closed loop systems, and so in one merchant, let's say it's Amazon, and then the other one is, let's say, Greg, whatever. And then you earn points, for example, for buying shoes, but today you don't need shoes. You don't need to buy shoes every day, right? Hopefully, so you need to buy something else. So I have points that I earned. Yes,
a Greek salad.
Yes, a Greek salad. So today I want to eat a Greek salad, for example, because I like feta cheese, but I have points, stored from buying shoes. So what on earth I'm gonna do? And actually, I might not even want to go and buy them from the same, let's say, environment or the same, let's say, marketplace. I want to go somewhere else. So blockchain can be also a layer that can, increase interoperability, because I can earn points in, let's say, Lucian store. Then these points can, translate them into in something that can be exchanged, and that something can be sitting on a chain and can be translated in points into Greg's store. So this layer, this basic layer of interoperability, can only be done, in my humble opinion, but you are the experts here because you have progressed and frontiered this technology, can only be done with blockchain, and this is what xMoney is going to do next as well, and offer globally. And that's something I think that will push even more the entire idea of creating one simple way of communicating through payments in these environments.
I fully agree.
Please,
yes,
Lucian.
Yes. Fully agree. So I think just the way I kind of look at this is, on the one hand, you have this kind of distribution channels, which are, as I said, wallets, partners, banking info, even banking infrastructures, partners, or merchants, blockchains that will have different currencies. That multiple sources of liquidity from multiple blockchains. So there's literally, this will be like the infrastructure, like a puzzle, like a spider net that will actually extend and uncover and eat pretty much step by step any kind of payment interface or asset that is being liquid in the market. When it comes to multiple chains, when it comes to, I stress this out just to be very well understood, because the peak and the growth of this kind of technology is to serve and matchmake as many of the assets, liquidity, partners, and individuals. Like those together summed up actually gives the value of the network. And then on top of that, the new version, and I think what Greg was mentioning, is particularly, on the one hand, the glue and the stickiness mechanism that will reward every single party that is the network connected to them or to one of the xMoney interfaces will have a direct incentive when talking to those interfaces, and will have an incentive by being part and extend the network as it is. Right. So this is, yes, I think, on the one hand, one of the functionalities. Now, the beauty of it is that you can also design and have your own monetization systems within those networks. So it is, exactly, we're going the infra play again. I'm just layering and stacking up pretty much the entire story just to point a bit where are we going? Yes, but where are we going, and where does each of the strategies fit in? And because I think it is, on the one hand, we spent years and tens of millions of dollars to build this kind of technology, and then trying to express it in very simple or a few minutes to all the layers actually that are coming together takes a bit of patience. But yes, I hope this now, at least, yes, please, Beniamin.
Yes, so definitely, I think both the points that Greg has made, and the lens that you have brought on the layering of the technology and how it interacts come very well together. What I want to share also in this light, in the same spirit, is that what we've been sharing here is not something you can build overnight. It's something that requires a lot of resources, requires a lot of focus, requires a lot of other exceptional people that, along with Greg and the teams, will attack these markets like there's no tomorrow. So what I'm saying is that we've had this great toy, almost this great child that has come into the world, has done a lot of cool things and so on, but now it's time to let it fly. Why? Because that's the only way for this to really fulfill its mission, for this to really serve millions and millions of users, for this to really accrue value and add network effects. Now, some people might be, again, you've not had too many things. You've not seen a company grow to these different life cycles. First, you think, yeah, but I might as well just keep it for myself. I only want to keep it here. The point is this: can I let it fly for it to bring a lot of value to all the other partners? Isn't that an even more valuable company? Of course it is. And so what we are saying here, there are finite games and infinite games. Finite games are just, you think everyone has just five coins. And then whoever brings more coins needs to take just from someone. And there's no way to multiply the coins. What we're saying is, precisely with the marketplaces, with the users. We're saying the entire crypto space suffers from a few problems: a liquidity problem, a user problem, and there's a great deficit of liquidity, builders, users, and flows that payments could supercharge. How do we do that? By partnering with all the different merchants and marketplaces outside. How do we do that? By serving different wallets, different chains, different ecosystems. And we also invite both like investors, builders, community. If you think you can add value, if you think you want to not sleep a few nights and attack some of these problems, and this gets you excited whenever you hear how difficult it is and so on, it gets you excited, definitely write us a note. Definitely ping Greg or ping the team, because we'd love to hear from you, and because this is just starting out. Perhaps a good last note to end on is what's one alpha idea? What's one thing that each of you are excited about and would plug in? Because I want to stress this. There's always changes, especially in this space that fuses several technologies, several crypto, fiat, stable coins, and so on. All this are monsters in themselves. We've stated this even internally. When someone builds a fiat company, it's like a fiat payments company. It's one thing in itself, and it's enough. You can die just doing that, and there's an entire play there. To build then a crypto play and company to serve, that's again enough. You can just do that and it's fine, it's good. Then to do stable coins, again, a lot to eat there, a lot on the table to tackle, to focus on, and so on. So to put them together just gives you this idea of what can be achieved, where it tackles, how it brings new users, new opportunities, but then also how it requires fuels.
Yes.
How it requires structuring and then attack of the problems in a serious way.
Maybe to add one more thing that just came to my mind that will be relevant. Also, when it comes to token distribution, it is also very much the same play for stablecoin distribution, right? So stablecoin distribution has some very strict properties that, compared to pretty much any kind of other token issuing, is people are literally as far as you can ever think. As far as Moon and Earth is actually a traditional token issuing in the Web3 when it comes to stablecoins. I mean, whoever, good luck trying. If there's something that I wish to my almost enemies, try issue a stable coin in Europe. But
can I add also a last line on this discussion?
Please, Greg, please.
So, coming to this discussion and having discussed all these, very, I think important, elements, what comes to my mind at the end of the day is the following. And what, I think that will make me super happy and all of us super happy is that we have somehow, or we wish to give every builder out there the list of frictions to freely, apply their ideas when it comes to payments. Because believe it or not, when somebody is young and has super, lots of ideas, the last thing that they will think about is how I'm going to get paid. But, probably it's also the most important one. So if in this...
Are you talking about me, Greg?
No. I was not implying something. Because I'm always talking about myself. So what I'm trying to say is that in all the builders that, they're going to listen to this podcast, if we make their lives easier and we increase accessibility, regardless where they are on Earth, being in Europe or in Africa or Asia or in the US, if we succeed in giving them an easy way to integrate like a few APIs and be able to, to execute and, conclude their project, and focus on their ideas instead of focusing on this super complex, infrastructure, then we will have put like a very small brick into a huge construct.
100%. I will take this, Greg, and expand it and say builders are here. They're looking. They're watching us from several ecosystems. We welcome them. We always want to hear their ideas, to play with the technology, to see how they can use it, test it, improve it, not hack it too much, because we'll catch them if they try to do that. But I also state this: there are another two buckets of actors. One, investors from all over the world that are either sitting on the sideline and looking at the payment solution and want to integrate it, want to invest, and then maybe take it in their market. So I would encourage them to reach out, to take a look at some of the things that we have under the hood, and I'm sure they'll be surprised. Now, also to the community, you've gotten now a glimpse of what some of our conversations are, even behind the scene, because now you got a sense of Greg, where he's coming from, and then how this might contribute to the trajectory. He's very productive. I think you can you can hear the sound, but no, absolutely no problem. Productivity calls, so that's very good. But I'll say this: I'm very happy that we're having this conversation, that people get this sense, and that this is not only about the future. They've seen the future. They'll discover a few of the milestones that have been achieved, but the team is here, the technology is here. And I mean, the prospects, if the administration, Trump administration, and the markets sort of cool down a bit, I do believe the fundamentals are stronger than at any point in time, and we're ready to use them to the best extent possible. So we're welcoming the builders, welcoming the people that maybe want to contribute, have seen some opportunity even in what we're building, and they want to reach out. It does feel like it's day one. It does feel like it's one conversation, but people will want to get more of this. And I feel with Greg and the teams that are there, we're going to really move some mountains. So yeah, just a humble and honest and nice conversations that we are having every few days, that I think the community will also enjoy themselves. Any last notes, Lucian or Greg?
No, we're a great team. We welcome everybody else that wants to join. Let's do it.
Yeah, 100%. Let's do it.
See you guys. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.